Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a quorum now, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the January 10th meeting of the Oklahoma Economic Development Trust. I welcome you all here today. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the December 13th meeting. Those have been distributed to the trustees prior to this meeting. Are there any comments on the minutes that have been distributed?
No comments, but move approval.
Approval. A motion made and approved. Please cast your votes. And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 3 on our agenda is to ratify some claims that were processed by the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust. The majority of these claims, the vast majority of these claims, are associated with TIF. There are 2 gold claims, as I recall, and 2 general fund claims. Would you like to say a word about those 2, or the 4 claims that are a little different than TIF?
There are 2 general fund claims. One is for the partial payment of our annual audit to BKD, and there is another one that has been on your claims docket in the past. It's the payment to the Mary Gardens Foundation for the monthly management agreement. The 2 gold claims, the first one is the monthly payment to the Alliance for Economic Development, and the second one is the GOLT portion of the audit. We allocate the audit expense among the different funds that are a part of the activities of the Economic Development Trust. So,
are there any questions concerning the payments that the trust has made? Chair would entertain a motion to ratify those payments. Motion made and second. Any further discussion? Cast your votes, and the item carries. Thank you very much. Item 4 are some items for individual consideration. The first is a new prospect with the Economic Development Trust. Kathy, would you like to say something?
I'd like to introduce Robin Roberts-Krieger with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce, who's going to provide you some background on this resolution that concerns Cameron International.
Good afternoon. My name is Robin Roberts-Krieger. I'm the Executive Vice President for Economic Development with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber. And I'd like to first acknowledge 2 people with us today. Martin Roberts, who is with the Oklahoma Department of Commerce. He's an economic development specialist and working with us on the state incentive portion of this. And then Michael Ogun, who many of you know, our Director of Business Development with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, who is working with our client. Mr. Wes Bowen is here today with Harvest Group. He is representing the client, and he will have a brief presentation and then take any questions you might have. This project is the potential for a company who's in the market today. Actually, we have several different business units of this company. They potentially could add up to 105 new jobs with an average salary of just under $50,000 a year. So rather than stealing the thunder of Mr. Bowen's presentation, I will let him come up and walk you through the potential project. Thank you.
And we try not to say stealing the thunder. Because
I'm sorry? What did he say?
We try not to say stealing the thunder.
Oh, okay. I'll finish with Go Thunder. Okay.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your time today. We appreciate the opportunity to stand before you today and represent the executives at Cameron, and they want to extend their appreciation for your consideration of this incentive. But before I get into the presentation and talk about specifically what the opportunity is, I'd like to thank Mike Ogun for assisting us to get to this point, and also Martin Roberts from the state. They've both been consummate professionals, and doing this constantly around the country and around the world, it's nice to work with people that you can trust and that you know have your best interest and the company's best interest at heart. So I appreciate them working with us today. First off, let me go through just a brief history of Cameron and who they are for those of you who may not be very familiar with the company. Then I will kind of share with you what our role is with the company and how those 2 things come together to bring us to this opportunity today. Cameron is a world leader in the manufacture of flow equipment products, systems, and services to the oil and gas industry. They're headquartered in Houston, Texas. They have operations in 300 locations around the world with 19,000 employees and revenues in 2010 of over $6 billion. Be much more significant than that in 2011 as the company is going through some pretty significant growth. So within that context of a company that size, you probably relate more to Cameron based on the local activities that you see that this company has in the various operations. Those operations had come together through years of acquisition in various components that they manufacture all over Oklahoma, with a concentration here in Oklahoma City. So as we, at the corporate level, look at where the company should strategically make their capital investments and hire their people to meet the increased market demand, we go out around the country and around the world and look at various factors that would support how business-friendly a particular jurisdiction would be. And those factors include labor, the quality of labor, the cost of labor, work ethic, those type of things, logistics. How is your infrastructure? How does that relate to how they're trying to do business globally? The fiscal stability of the government itself, how the state and the local communities get along. Is there a fair tax scheme in place? Is that something that can be anticipated over a long term that's not going to change or affect the company in any negative way? And then the final and last piece of that is incentives. Before you even have the opportunity to participate on the incentive side, you have to be a business-friendly environment when a company has global operations. And I would not be here today if you guys had not done before today what it would take to be a business-friendly environment. So we appreciate all those aspects you guys have done through the history of Oklahoma to make sure that this state and this jurisdiction in particular are very friendly towards business. So specifically, we have several locations throughout the state. Within Oklahoma City, we have these 4 or 5 manufacturing operations. One's a remanufacture of the land drilling equipment, pressure controlling equipment. If you're familiar with the oil and gas industry, some of this may make more sense to you than not. But basically, remanufacturing is bringing in machines that have been used and rebuilding those and redeploying those to new owners. And then also the manufacturing of the Guberson equipment and the casing and the tubing swabs. And then the manufacture of the Ajax and Superior reciprocating natural gas engines and compressors. And then there's a whole suite of valve production and those types of things that go on here. Now, these operations, while they all are in the same industry, they are not connected per se except through common leadership. The common leadership out of Houston organizes all the various divisions of the company, and they make the decision on where the capital investment is deployed for the new equipment to produce new or larger products or to update outdated equipment, and also where the capacity as far as where the materials are going to be produced and the jobs associated with that capacity. All those decisions are made out of Houston. As kind of a aside, we're doing a very similar analysis to what we're doing with our Oklahoma operations in Louisiana, New York, Texas, Arkansas, also in Scotland and Brazil and some other international locations. So this is kind of a company-wide, and I know Mike Ogan is looking for an opportunity for us to say exactly what we're going to do very soon, but it's a larger decision-making process, and this is a very important component of that. So we will be able to make those announcements as soon as we can. Overall, you ask yourself, well, what would be 100 jobs, actually a couple hundred jobs statewide, and 100 jobs specifically locally, what will be driving that type of job increase in today's economy? Well, the oil and gas industry, and Cameron in particular, has seen a lot of growth over the last 3 years. So the question is, how do you manage that growth, and where's the most efficient place to have that capital be invested and have the jobs created? New technology requires new equipment and an enhanced workforce. We have a very good workforce in Oklahoma City, a very good workforce in Oklahoma that's well-trained, well-educated, and we would certainly hope that that would continue moving forward. The investment would include both the modernization of existing equipment, new lines, just a hodgepodge of different things to be able to meet the market demands. So the project scenario in Oklahoma City specifically would employ about $12 million of capital that would be invested in various operations, both some real property investment, primary tangible personal property or equipment type investments. The job growth would be just over 100 jobs over a 4 or 5 year period. And then the average wages would be very significant, approaching $50,000 without benefits. So these are very high-paying jobs. They're good jobs, and they are very similar to the type of skills that are available in this area. That's why you guys are being considered for this. We can now go into a discussion if anybody has any specific questions about the project. Specifically, Cameron would like to ask that the local community participate with them. It is more than about the actual participation dollars. It is relative to them establishing partnerships wherever they have significant operations. In Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma has come to Cameron through this process and has offered a very viable partnership from the state level. And before Cameron feels that they have the entire circle complete, that would also include some type of partnership at the local level so that everyone is in the same vein as to what would be the best thing to do. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Are there questions from the trustees? Larry?
No, I don't have a question, but make a comment, if you would, on a DEMCO as it relates to where we are today.
What was that?
DEMCO.
A DEMCO?
DEMCO.
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Well, that's the thing that started y'all in Oklahoma City years ago. DEMCO valve.
Right.
Which has led up to where we are today. A good portion, your valve operation is going to be a part of this overall scheme.
That's right.
Okay. And that was originally a company called DEMCO, which was formed locally here in Oklahoma City with Oklahoma City ownership.
Right.
Then merged up to this international corporation. And so there is some historical roots here, which I think the city and y'all now we can play off of.
Right.
So I didn't mean to. I thought you'd recognize.
Well,
you're old like me. You know what these terms are. Okay. So I apologize.
No, that's fine. And if I could give you a list of all the acquisitions that they have had over the past 10 to 15 years, it would be a very long list. They are going through the process of changing the names of most of the companies to Cameron International, hanging that name on the building itself. But there has been a long and storied tradition locally, one that is very much in the front of the minds of the executives in Houston.
And we'd like to keep that operation here by whatever name.
Right.
Rhonda?
Okay, for the benefit of Larry, I used to write the copy about all those ball valves on DEMCO, so that was a long time ago.
Good.
Historical perspective.
And as the record shows, she's nowhere near as old as I am. Okay?
I do have a question in terms of the manufacturing operations you do have in Oklahoma City. What percentage of those sales are outside of the state versus in-state? You have a clue?
I don't have the exact number.
But it is national distribution of these product offerings that you have here.
It is
right?
international distribution. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this is a classic of what the gold bonds were intended to do, to create wealth here that would be exported out of the state. So this is
good example.
As I have a preconceived prejudice towards manufacturing, you know which side I'm on.
I want to recognize that, Larry. Thank you for your kind words about Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. We appreciate that. We're preparing a proposal that would outline our incentives. We would like very much for your company to expand here. And let me assure you that the City Council, speaking on behalf of them, and the Economic Development Trust will do everything we can to facilitate that move if indeed you choose to Oklahoma City.
Well, thank you, and I congratulate you on all the other things outside of incentives that you have done through the years to make this a business-friendly environment. And this is, as Mike would say, the icing on the cake to a wonderful relationship moving forward. And we certainly hope to be able to make an announcement next couple of weeks that will be pleasing to you guys.
Next couple of weeks, so we won't have to wait for a long time.
No, it will not be too long.
Very good. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. Robin, do you have anything else you'd like to add to it? Thank you. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and second. Please cast your votes, and the resolution is approved. Thank you again, sir. Item B is concurrence with the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. And I think this finishes up our PAYCOM project.
I think it does. It accepts the project and places the maintenance bond in effect.
And I think that's an example of using gold bond money to not only attract a specific industry right here, but provide the background and ability to serve a lot of companies in that rapidly growing area. So I think it was a good project. Are there any questions? We've got some representatives here from the Public Works Department who might be able to answer our questions. Okay, hearing none, we need a maybe a motion to concur.
So move.
Motion made and seconded. You guys are getting better at this. I appreciate it. Please cast your votes, and we concur. Item C is a Project 180 construction update report. Hope it's a map and how to walk out of this building.
A map to walk out of the building, yes. Out the east doors and on the sidewalks. No, it's a pleasure to bring a presentation today in the Project 180 construction update. Last month in December, you'll recall, we talked about budget and scope changes. But this month, I would like to report a lot of the good news, a lot of the progress that's been ongoing, and several projects are actually nearing their completion stages. We mentioned last month as we try to work towards our goals of improving walkability and appearance in downtown, we have several instances of that are occurring more towards our south now as those packages 1 through 3 are nearing completion. This is just the reminder of some of the project details showing the new amenity zones, the new traffic signals, and a lot of the new street lighting that I'll show you in these upcoming photos. But as you look across the different packages as we advance from 1 through 5 in this presentation, you'll see those have been carried out throughout the program. This is package 1, and of course it was started first. It's anticipated to actually have a final acceptance later this month, early February. So work is nearly complete. The punch list is underway. But you'll see a lot of those zones that we previously shown. You can see the street lights and the stop lights in this photo. You'll see the improved lanes, the on-street parking. You'll see many of those details that are here. This was just a little over an $8 million project. Predominantly the work included up and down Reno Avenue. There is one final change order that's pending that will be coming as a part of that final acceptance. This is another one of those views, package 1 along the Mary Gardens, Reno Robinson looking west. So again, you can see there's been a lot of activity in this area. And I would be remiss to say we also, of course, are working towards the final acceptance of the Myriad Botanical Gardens. I do not have photos this month of those since I showed those in December, but that's scheduled for the March timeframe. Yes?
Stupid question. What connotes final acceptance?
So once all of the work has been completed, and at the end of a project, there is a punch list that's created. Those would be the small items that need to be done as a part of the contract. We'll bring an item back to the trust, onto the City Council that accepts the work and allows us to make final payment to the contractor. So the list of activities or the list of work items that is being worked down is nearly complete, and we should be able to bring that acceptance here in the next month. So that'll be the official completion date of the project. As we work towards package 2, again, a lot of considerable improvements. We're also looking at a final acceptance, a final completion on this project in February. Rudy Construction, this one was a little more than a $6.5 million project. This was the area that was more predominantly north of downtown around the Memorial. Work has been completed for some time, but again, as they work those final items, this is the conditions that you'll find there today. This is 4th and Harvey looking south. Again, a lot of the same amenities that you find on the other packages. This is 5th and Hudson looking east. I had a photo that was included in this last month, and it had a lot of construction equipment. Obviously, that's all been removed. The trees have been planted. Sidewalks are accessible. As we move on to package 3, we now move into areas that we have some considerable construction still underway. Package 3, we're anticipating a completion in March. This is Main and Walker looking west. So this is a nearly completed streetscape. This was opened up just before the holidays. This was closed for quite some time. We still have significant utility challenges. There are drawings that are available for a lot of the utilities as a part of construction, but inevitably all the contractors are finding unknowns. As we uncover the earth, as we relocate those utilities, they're finding a lot of challenges even in our later packages. This is that completed work. This is Main and Lee looking east. Again, you can see these completed streetscapes with the traffic signals included. Some of the pending work that's in this area, of course, includes Walker Avenue, Sheridan, and then we've got, this will be Sheridan west of Walker, and also the incomplete work that's on Walker. You'll find there's a few barricades that are still up in those areas, but that work is to be completed by the end of the month, so we should have full access to all of the work in that package soon. This is package 4, Colcord and Hudson looking south. This has been a major construction zone until just the end of this previous year. You'll notice that all the traffic's been moved to the west lanes of Hudson, so the improved ride is noticeable. You're not driving over potholes anymore. You're not driving over utility cuts. And so it's helped improve a lot of our downtown traffic flow. But you'll see that there's still a considerable amount of work on the left-hand side of this drawing or to the east. And so the contractor is working very quickly to install the final utilities, and that work is proceeding. This is about an $11 million project, and it's expected to be completed in June of this year. This is Main and Robinson, looking south again, and this shows a lot of that other work. This is Robinson, which has been so difficult for the contractors. A lot of the excavation here was actually done by hand, and the machines were just too large. There were too many utilities that were just simply too close together. So the schedule on this has been compromised, but we have been updated this month. We should have Sheridan to Main on Robinson open in the next 2 to 3 weeks, to traffic Main to Park by the end of the month, early February. So we should see dramatic improvements in this area over the next month. This is some of that work that's ongoing in Package 5, which is right outside this building, hence which way do you go when you walk out and how do you access some of our parking. But work proceeded very quickly in December, at late November, as we work towards a completion later this year. You'll see these construction zones, and this is some of the active work, and we could see most of this outside today. There's a lot of utilities, there's new sewer lines, there's new water lines. Walker Avenue will actually close this weekend for the 3-day weekend to take advantage of lessened traffic downtown for some major utility work as we cross the street. Additional updates on Package 5. This is Colcord and Walker looking east. This would be just south of this building. You can see the Nordic Library in the background. There's been a lot of detours as made in Project 180. We still issue the downtown traffic advisories on Friday afternoons to make sure those are prepared for the following week of upcoming closures, and so those are ongoing and continually updated. And this is the same drawing that was presented in December, a summary of each of the packages of where we've been able to complete work to date. You'll notice they're color-coded from packages 1 through 6, also including some future work not yet being considered, but the photos that I've showed today are through 1 through 5. Package 6 is identified in yellow, but we have not made a final determination that that's the entire scope of work to be completed. It's work that we're anticipating to bid later this year. The work that's identified on this is included in the original budget or the revised budget that we showed in December. Future work would come as additional funds become available. Other work that's not shown on this drawing would be the actual Bicentennial Park. Bids were received today on Bicentennial Park. They were favorable. So we look forward in the next month to making a recommendation of award for that project. Next week we have the enclosed pedestrian corridor, and then of course Package 6, as I mentioned, a little bit later this year. But with that, lots of progress. We're finally seeing some of the success of Project 180 with the open streets, obviously improved traffic flow. When we talk about the Thunder Games in the area along Reno and Robinson, which was under construction this time last year, had a lot of complications, but that's all been opened. And so I think as you look into the future, into 2012, we've got a lot of progress that will be made and additional updates that I think that you'll find very favorable. Happy to entertain questions.
Eric, how about EKK Boulevard?
I'm sorry?
EK Boulevard, Gaylord Boulevard.
Gaylord specifically is not a Project 180 package at this time. I mean, it's something we could consider as potential future work. You'll notice on this drawing it's highlighted in white as not being included in work conceived today. But the city is actively pursuing opportunities for that. There was a Tiger 3 grant that was submitted on several months ago that was not successful. We have a new grant that we're submitting on to hopefully fund that. But it is simply just a matter of funding. And since the hub is located on Gaylord, it's directly east of the Cox Convention Center, I know that that's a priority project for the city, and I think it's just a matter of time. But it's a matter of funding, and so once that's identified, we can proceed.
Would you care to define a matter of time in months, years, or decades?
You know, Project 180, I think, is just the initial work in downtown. I think we're going to see things continue to grow. For example, the hub, which has been identified for MAPS 3, is going to encourage additional development in that area. I think it's going to require traffic improvements, pedestrian enhancements in that area. So I think there's opportunities with MAPS 3. They're going to make that a reality. There's other opportunities for funding. So I think when we say a matter of time, there's other projects that are coming behind Project 180. They're going to need to take those and have those considered as well. We have other developments downtown. Of course, Devon continues to develop, Sandridge is developing, and we're seeing some additional enhancements of our streetscapes around those areas. Sandridge is of course, in the midst of a redesign of Kerr Park, but then all the amenity zones and things around that park are complementing Project 180 as well. And so I think we're going to see continued expansion to the north of downtown, continued in our core, and then, of course, as we've talked about the hub, somewhat to our east.
Further questions? Eric, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Item D on our agenda is a change order and amendment. Some work that was done as part of Project 180 that was financed by TIF and the bond issue, $124,191.75. Are there any questions or comments? Kathy, anything to say about that? We've been, I guess, so, immune to the pain these charges across. We have them so much. Are there questions or comments? Chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Item E is a joint resolution of the City of Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust authorizing staff to begin negotiating contracts with IPS Group for parking meters. I understand there's some comment. People would like to make some comments at this point.
I think the first thing that we probably would like to do is have Mike Clark make a few comments about the selection process and the meters that we have chosen. The resolution is that it is to authorize staff to begin negotiating contracts for both multi-space and single-space meters for the downtown. This has been a rather lengthy process, and it has involved an appeal by an unsuccessful vendor to the city, and that vendor's here today, and I believe would like to make some comments. We have several people in the audience that are prepared to answer your questions or respond to any concerns that you might have about this. But at this time, we are recommending that we negotiate with Parkeon for the multi-space meters in the downtown and IPS for the single space. There was no appeal on the single space meter selection. It was just related to the multi-space. Just so, as some background, we have several, as Eric reported, we have several Project 180 projects or packages that are either completed or very near to completion, and we do have a need to procure parking meters and to begin to better control on-street parking in downtown Oklahoma City. We have decided to go to a multi-space meter in as many locations as we possibly can and use a pay and display system, which means you'll buy a ticket or a slip of paper. It'll either go on your dashboard or it's a sticker on your car. I can't remember which right now. But it's a pay and display system that's used in a lot of other cities around the country very successfully. I would just say that I think we are beginning to have some concerns about people abusing the on-street parking that is going unmetered at this time, and we would like to try to address that situation. Obviously, the city is also losing some revenues from parking meters and parking ticket fines. So, but that's not the real point. The point is that we need to make a selection and begin the negotiation process so that we can order some parking meters. With that, Mike.
Thank you, Kathy.
On February 8th of 2011, the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust and the City of Oklahoma City received 5 proposals for multi-space parking meters and 2 proposals for single-space parking meters. A selection committee comprised of representatives from the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority, the City Manager's Office, the IT Department, the Treasury Department, and the court system was organized to evaluate the proposals. A follow-up questionnaire was issued to the proposers, and responses were received from all on March 25th of 2011. On July 22nd of 2011, an email was sent to each proposer indicating that staff would recommend Calais for the multi-space meters and IPS for the single-space meters. Following the procedure established by the Devon Implementation Committee, by the Devon Implementation Agreement, a recommendation was forwarded to award a contract to the two identified proposers at the July 25, 2011 Devon Implementation Committee meeting. During that meeting, concerns were expressed towards the size and the appearance of the Calais multi-space meter, the acceptance of multi-space meters by Oklahoma City residents and visitors, and reports of technical difficulties with Calais meters in other communities. Staff agreed to conduct additional research and return to a future meeting. At this point, proposals had been considered for either a pay-by-space or a pay-and-display parking system. And as Kathy described for you, a pay-by-space involves a driver parking in a numbered space and then going to the meter and paying for that space at the meter. In a pay-and-display system, the driver parks in an available parking system, goes to the meter, and receives a receipt, which the driver then returns to their car. After discussion with the Oklahoma City Police Department, the city committed to a pay-and-display parking system. Knowing the type of parking system to be utilized allowed evaluators to become more specific with regard to monthly operating cost. Parkeon now became slightly less expensive than Calais when considering the initial purchase price and monthly operating expense. Staff presented an update on all 5 multi-space proposals at the September 21, 2011 DIC meeting, at which time staff was asked to take a more focused look at both Calais and Parkeon and then provide pricing on the various options offered by each. Staff returned to the October 13, 2011 DIC meeting with a recommendation to award a contract with Parkeon. This recommendation was based on Parkeon having a lower initial price and a comparable monthly operating cost. The DIC voted to approve this recommendation. Each initial proposal included a parts list with pricing based on a comment made at the October 13th DIC meeting. Staff went back and matched the obvious parts on the Calais and Parkeon list and found 3 easily identifiable matches. Each company was less expensive on a single item, and on the third, Calais offered a refurbished price at a lower, offered a refurbished part at a lower cost. And I will be glad to try to answer questions as the discussion continues.
Are there questions from either trustee? Yes, Mike, don't go away.
Okay, you used the term slightly less. What is slightly less?
If we looked at a purchase of 125 meters, which is what we as staff believe we would need for the first 6 packages of Project 180, Calais offers their meter with a stainless steel cabinet, and that particular meter is $7,590. Doing the math for 125 meters, that comes out to $948,750. Parkeon offers their meter with either a cold-rolled steel cabinet or a stainless cabinet. And for Parkeon, if you choose a color other than a stock color, there is an upcharge for a custom color as well. But to kind of give you a range, the cold-rolled steel cabinet from Parkeon is $6,250. The stainless cabinet is $7,196. And then the upcharge for the custom color is an additional $250. So if we multiply that out, you would go somewhere from $781,250 to $930,750. So kind of mixing and matching parts, you have maybe some choices to make on the parking on site.
Okay, slightly, 781,000 versus 948 is not my definition of slightly. I call that significant. Okay.
I certainly think it's significant. Those two proposals actually were the two that were closest together. The other three were significantly higher than that, and I believe that's why the DIC gave the direction to go back and focus on those two vendors.
Okay, now I know the answer to this, but I think everybody, I'd like to have it on the record. You said there's two kinds of material that could be used, stainless steel and cold rolled steel. And the cold rolled steel, without just taking the standard color, what I heard you say was $6,250 per unit.
Yes, sir.
Okay, will that cold rolled steel perform in our environment just as well as the stainless steel cabinet?
It was discussed in the DIC meeting, and I think the feeling in that meeting was that Oklahoma City did not have a large number of ice events in the year that would see us spreading salt and corrosive materials, and therefore they did not feel like that was as much of a concern here as perhaps in other communities that either experience that condition or high humidity. That was the discussion that occurred during the DIC meeting. During the RFP process, the information that had been forwarded to the Public Works Department by COPTA had indicated that we would request a stainless steel option, but it was not required. So the RFP required at least cold rolled steel with an option for stainless.
The pricing that you indicated, it was for the pay and display units, correct?
What ends up happening, the pricing changes from an operating standpoint. On the initial proposal, Calais priced both the pay and display and pay by space at a $50 a month access fee. Parkeon priced their pay and display at $45 a month and their pay by space at $57 a month. And that's why when the group did not have a decision of the type of system that the city would utilize, they considered kind of the worst case scenario. Once the city committed to a system, then the pricing was evaluated. Calais came back and identified that they actually are $45 a month on pay and display and $55 a month on pay by space. They had offered the $50, not knowing which the city would take. Staff, trying to compare the evaluation, said that both were proposing a monthly operating cost of $45 a month and considered that to be comparable.
Mike, let me ask you a question. Do you feel that the evaluation was complete, thorough, and fair?
Since I was involved in it, I certainly hope so.
It's a good career statement.
I think the only thing that I wished as staff is that I would have known more about a parking meter. And when I sat down to try to evaluate the parts list and that sort of thing, it was difficult for me to match up a Calais item to a Parkeon item. I think if we were going to be more thorough, it would have involved some sort of replacement type program. But what we evaluated were initial purchase price and operating cost, and we feel like we were fair in doing that.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Just one other question. The unit from Parkeon that we're talking about here,
Yes, sir.
any other cities of any significance using that unit, or is this just a brand new thing that's just coming to the market?
No, both vendors actually have units in a number of communities. I believe when COPTA did research on other communities using Parkeon, Austin was a community that they received favorable feedback from. again, not trying to air dirty laundry. I think if you have installed a meter somewhere, you've had the potential to have problems with it. I think both vendors have had that situation based on the research that has been done. It's our belief that both have addressed the problems they have had satisfactorily. I think Parkeon had a situation in Denver. I think Calais had a situation in Chicago. But again, our research has indicated that they both were responsive to their problems.
Being a Yankee, you might have told, I'm kind of impressed that the New York City's got 6,000, just installed their 6,000th unit. Is that correct, Brent?
What's the average life expectancy of a parking meter, multi-unit parking meter?
I know that in doing research, Parkeon provided a 10-year warranty on their cold-rolled steel cabinet. I would have to check for you, Ms. Hooper. I know that both companies are here today, and I can certainly get that information.
Mike, thank you very much. We've got two representatives of Calais who've asked to speak to the trust, Ryan Bernardi and James Milner. You have a chance right now.
Good afternoon, panel. My name is Ryan Bernardi. I'm a representative of Calais Parking. Do you need any sort of like address for me to give, anything like that official?
It might be good for the record. Yeah.
Okay. My address is 11703 Gothic Lane, Tampa, Florida. Okay, I've been working for Calais now for over 8 years. Prior to that, I was with Schlumberger, and I've been in the parking industry for 13 years now. The reason why I'm here today, I really have one goal, and it's just to ask this committee to allow Calais to provide a 10-year guaranteed cost of ownership for the new parking system. Not only the upfront cost and the ongoing costs, some of which have been calculated, but not all of them. All of the costs, a guaranteed flat bottom line price. That's what I'm here asking this committee to allow us to do. So you can get not just an estimated picture of what the costs are going to be, but a crystal clear picture of what those costs are going to be. Now, the reason why I'm asking for that is because it's basically come up. It was in a DIC meeting dated October 13th, 2011. During staff's subsequent review of all the proposals, it was determined by upper management that a pay and display parking system should be implemented. After reviewing the initial proposals and quantifying the estimated capital and operating cost of the units, staff determined that the Parkeon meter appears to be reliable as other competitors, and was the least expensive of the two options. Therefore, it is the staff's recommendation to begin negotiating with Parkeon for the purchase of multi-space pay and display parking meters. Now, so that basically right there was the justification. It was the bottom line cost, okay, the estimate and what it appeared to be. And that's what moved the initial selection from Calais to Parkeon. Appearances, they can be deceiving. As you know, probably with some of the projects that are going on in this city right now, cost estimates, they can be wrong as well, too. This is one project you are now in a position to understand and get the commitment of a vendor for all costs for the next decade, not just the upfront costs. Even if an extended warranty, let's say one of the ongoing costs that really weren't discussed in the comparison was the cost of an ongoing extended parts warranty. Okay, I believe the included warranty for this project was 2 years, but then after that you're either going to be buying your parts a la carte or you're going to have in place an extended parts warranty. Now, if you do the extended parts warranty, I'm pretty certain that we're going to be lower than Parkeon. We have in the past. And if you're going to buy your parts a la carte, I did look a little deeper than Mr. Clark did in comparing parts pricing. And if you look at, say, for instance, a solar panel. Now, if that's damaged, say vandalized, which is not covered under any warranty, with Parkeon's price, you'll be paying $795. With Calais, you'll be paying $294. A thermal printer, something that can break down, you'll be paying $988 from Parkeon, $278 from Calais. These are key components of the equipment. Coin selector, Parkion's price, $893. Calay's price, almost 3 times as less, $308. Parkion's price for a main board, $1,716. Calay's price, $1,275. The GPRS modem, basic modem. We get them, stick an AT&T SIM in, the meter's communicating. Parkion will charge you $1,716, while Calais will charge you $356. Then the display, the liquid crystal display. Parkion, $1,716 again. Calais is $560, well, I've been rounding up, so $568. Let's see. We understand that the goal of parking is customer service, allowing people, your patrons, to pay quickly and easily and accurately. Okay? You're right. Both companies provide that. But both companies don't provide it at the same cost. I'm just asking you guys, please, allow us to give you, like I say, a guaranteed 10-year cost of ownership. Upfront, ongoing, soup to nuts. In closing, if spending the least amount of money on this project over the next 10 years is important to the city, the DIC, the OCEDT, and the citizens of Oklahoma City, then please allow a complete review of all applicable pricing so we can understand not what the costs appear to be or are estimated to be, but have 100% certainty. Calais will provide this certainty. We're just asking for the opportunity. To clear things up also, in Chicago, we do have a documented uptime of our meters, all 4,600 plus of them, of 99.8%. If you'd like to talk to the person directly involved with the Chicago project, I'd be more than happy to give you his phone information right now. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Craig, there was a question asked earlier about the process. Could you reassure the trust that all our pertinent city processes were followed to the letter?
Yes, sir. We reviewed as a part of the appeal that was brought forward by Calais. In our appeal process, our role is to look to make sure that our procedures were handled correctly. And so as we reviewed those, it followed both our purchasing policies and procedures, as well as working with legal. We ensured that it complied with the requirements of the Devon Implementation and Coordination Agreement.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
The resolution before us is not to approve any kind of, yeah, Larry, I'm sorry.
Well, just one question. In a previous life, if you would, Craig, I was a salesman. And a salesman's job is to bring his product forward with all the advantages. Was there anything in the process that would have eliminated a company from offering this 10-year guarantee at the time the original response to the RFP was made?
I don't believe so, no, sir. I think that could have been offered.
Thank you.
I want to point out to the trust that the action we take today just authorizes the negotiation. It doesn't approve any kind of a purchase at all. So there'll be further negotiations that will take place. Is that correct? And so the item before us is the approval of the resolution. I move approval. I found a lawyer says I can do that, so it's okay. Motion made and second to approve the instructions to the staff to begin the negotiations. Are there any further comments or questions? Please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you very much. I was remiss in not giving Mr. Milner an opportunity to address the trust. Did you have anything further? Thank you, Jane. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the General Manager's report. Are there items on their report that there are any questions or comments on? I have a commitment from the person who prepares the report to correct a long-standing typographical error in our first item here. Explanation that deals with the affinia process. And so we go forward from there. Any other questions about this? On the PAYCOM paragraph in there, The payment is indicated in brackets. And to my training, that would mean it's a negative number.
Yes, sir. That negative is to reflect that goes against the amount of money that we invested initially for the water line, the sewer line expansions. There are no payments actually per se to Paycom until that credit is.
That's all taken care of.
Yes,
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for your report. We're to the point now we ask for comments from the staff.
I think Robin would like to give us an update on the Boeing project.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon again. We kind of assumed this would be one that you would like us to bring forward to you, so here we are. I want to kind of take it as a larger series of projects since we've had other projects before and kind of do it chronologically. First, I'd like to do a current status update. There's been a lot of numbers in the press and in the media, partly because there's still a lot of conversation within the company on exact numbers and timing. But the current status is the C-130 jobs that you approved for an SIP agreement, for the most part, are here. There's over 150 moving on towards 200 jobs here in the existing building, and the existing building is close to full at this point. The new building, the 320,000 square foot building that's being built next door, the timeline is to hopefully have that ready for occupancy around April 1st, and it is on schedule at this time. And the filling of that building will be scheduled, the first floor obviously being the first one that they anticipate putting jobs into. Boeing is going through some fairly aggressive hiring right now. Some of these jobs are being relocated from Long Beach, but there's other positions that are open, and we have, last when I talked to Boeing, they have a lot of great resumes coming in, a lot of people applying, and through the website, Boeing.com, all of the application and job opportunities are through that website. So there's aggressive hiring going on. The balance of the B-1 jobs, which were part of that original 550, we anticipate the trust seeing that application from Boeing probably at the end of this quarter. It's a timing issue. As soon as they feel more comfortable with the numbers, they're still making some tweaks on that, much as they did for the original application. And so again, we're hoping to see that in the March timeframe. And those jobs will be coming in as the new building is readied, and so we'll see the bulk of those first 550 completing through 2012. The second comment I would make is about the new jobs that were announced last week, the 800 to 900 jobs. Those jobs are going not to be coming all at one time. The bulk of them will be coming in 2013. And Boeing is still working through when you're closing a facility like Wichita, and we want to be sensitive to the fact that there will be families dislocated, relocated. They're still making decisions on, which positions need to be moved here. Some positions are going to San Antonio, Texas, as you know. The bulk of what we will see are engineers and program managers, and those discussions are ongoing between the state, the city, and Boeing as we work through with them what their exact numbers will be, but I don't anticipate that you will see anything before the trust until later this year as they work through that process, since the jobs will not actually occur until 2013 for the most part. We will, of course, continue to not only work with the company on their incentive packages, et cetera, but also, quite frankly, we'll be spending a lot of time on how we work with them on their employee relocations, much as we did the original positions. So a lot of our work now is to really focus on how to make this transition as smooth as possible for Boeing and for their employees. So hopefully that gives you a bit more of an update on what's going on. We're working with them every day. Questions?
Any questions?
Robin, as a reminder on the original phase of Boeing, and we anticipated only X percent of acceptance. What is that actual acceptance percentage risen to?
The original numbers we gave you were in the 80 percentile. I would have to go back. I have not asked the company in a couple of months, so I need to go back and ask them. I can get that for you.
Thank you. That's a good question. Larry? Okay. Robin, thank you very much. We appreciate your report. Appreciate your efforts.
Absolutely.
Are there any comments from the trustees? Any comments from citizens here today? If not, we are adjourned.